Thursday, June 16th at 6:30 p.m. I would like to call this Planning Commission meeting to order. And I would like a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the agenda.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will move down to approving the minutes from May 19th. And I would like a motion to approve the May 19th, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
I move to approve the May 19, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay, down to number 4, new business, Timber Creek Lot Split Phase 2. Harry Davis, would you like to lead us through this?
Can do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So the first item on our agenda in front of you all is actually part of the Timber Creek subdivision. So you can sort of see here up in the upper right is a final plat for the first edition that was approved, I think it was earlier this year. And then, so these other sort of phases here are sort of in the works as a part of that greater preliminary plat that was seen actually last year. What we're specifically looking at here today is actually just one part of it. So, you know, here again is the first edition. These are all future additions to Timber Creek. What we're looking at today is actually sort of creating these lots that are currently just outlots for Timber Creek, setting it up so that the developer can go in there and phase out the development. Really, the idea is for the developer to buy the lots that they're going to develop as they develop them, instead of buying the entire property and sort of cutting it up from there. The other thing that helps this sort of situation is that the current owners of the property, the Song family, still want to be able to farm a part of the property. And so what they're doing is they're creating one lot, and hopefully you can see my cursor, but they're creating one lot over here, and it sort of touches some area over here as well. There's another lot that will be created here, and then there's this sort of third other lot, which will be part of a future development that's, you know, we're currently in talks with them as to how to go about that development specifically, because it does bleed a little bit into areas that are currently not within the city. So that'll be a future development. Not a whole lot for me to speak about right now, but just focusing on the Timber Creek side of it, it's these two lots that are being created that we're the most interested in tonight. You know, here again, just how it kind of fits in with the wider subdivision. So it'll be parts over here, a little bit over here, and then sort of this area over here. I'm just kind of flipping back. Sorry.
Can you flip back for a second?
Yes.
Okay, so the blue part?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the blue part, this is the second edition.
Okay.
So they'll be creating or building this street, creating these lots over here as well as these streets, and then for stormwater purposes, they'll need these two outlots as well as this outlot. So that kind of explains it. It's phase development is always a little hard to understand without actually seeing the development overlaid with kind of their lot line thinking on top of it.
Well, I've seen
So
a lot of phased development.
Yeah,
This is.
I think it was the water.
Describe it. It's kind of.
Yeah.
The water lots is what was throwing me off.
Yeah, the blue, yeah.
Well, not the blue,
Yeah.
but like the two little things. I was like, what are you going to do with that? But
Yeah.
it's because of water.
Sure.
That makes
Right.
the storm.
Yeah.
You have to have retention pond.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
Anyway.
that sort of red outline is the lot that'll be created. And so what they'll do is all the areas that are not blue would be that future phase 3 part of it.
Okay.
And that area that the Songs want to, or or if they continue potentially farming it, that would be the future.
Takedown.
Does it say takedown?
It does.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand why it says takedown, but
And that is-
that's fine.
So they won't farm anything within the red beyond now, because that's,
Yes, that is the idea, is that, so everything within that red outline would be part of the developed part that they're trying to do, both phase 2 and 3, and then future part 4 once the songs are done farming. So,
Sure.
Now, in addition, at this point in time, they're running water up into the wetland to the north, the next one we're gonna discuss. My understanding was, right now they have a pipe running up into that wetland in the center of the, I can't remember the name of it. What's the?
Timber.
Yeah,
the preserve?
yeah.
Yep.
That is a good question. I'm not familiar with the utility layout.
If that's something to look into, and let us know.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I can ask Aaron. I didn't think that we would need his expertise tonight, so I apologize.
I apologize. Well, I was reading through the preserve, and
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then, so what you're saying is eventually that's gonna be replaced by the 2 collection ponds that are going in.
Yeah,
showing here.
yeah. The thing that I do understand about it is that, I mean, they want to keep that wetland as a wetland, so having a pipe run through the middle of it doesn't quite make sense. So, removing that pipe and then letting people enjoy that wetland in the preserve. So that's kind of the idea with that. We could probably hit it more once we get into the preserve, just so that we're all kind of looking at the same map.
Sure.
But at least for this lot split, it's generally pretty straightforward. Staff is in support of it. We do have a few things that have changed since publishing the report. So the city attorney and the developer's attorney have had some back and forth about some of the conditions. So in front of you all are a set of 4 conditions that the city attorney is recommending. It'll actually be on the city council report that'll be discussed at Monday's meeting of city council. So kind of the 2 things to note. So the agreement condition was removed. The city attorney didn't think that was necessary with all the other conditions and sort of the stipulations within that. So he felt comfortable removing that and not having that as a condition. The first condition as well was changed a little bit. So the basically it doesn't drastically change anything within that particular condition. What it does allow is whether the songs want to continue farming or if they end up waiving the right to farm it and then just allowing the developer to buy all of that land. Either way, it's just making sure that none of that farm equipment is going through any of those existing subdivisions and tearing up the roads that were very recently put in. So that's kind of the idea with it. A few of these other conditions really, they're kind of just more for protecting the city in case there are any changes to this plat or, sort of any deviations away from the Timber Creek preliminary plat. So that's all of that in a nutshell. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So the current owner of the land is the Songs.
Correct.
Correct? Okay. How is this different from our regular process of doing, right, because we already approved phase 1, and we have yet to see a phase 2, correct?
It will be coming.
Okay, so they need to subdivide the existing property, right? I'm sure there's some existing, pre whatever layout of the land. So they need to subdivide it into a smaller than existing section so they can start the second phase without having to buy the entire, I don't know, whatever the rest of the land is.
Right.
Okay.
That's correct. I believe there's also some element of the songs, and again, this has kind of changed within the past few days, but there's some discussion as to whether the Songs do want to continue farming,
Sure.
but they also might not want to. And so, this is still submitted. We still have to continue on.
Okay.
But either way, the conditions that we're recommending on this slide, they're going to protect the city from
Yeah,
any
it makes
sort of
sense.
change in decisions.
Okay, so my next question. So the during the preliminary, right, did we annex the entire area? Mm-hmm. Okay, so previously that it was, the township land, right? So they would have been able to use existing, but since we have annexed that entire region, then it comes under Carver's planning and zoning ordinances. Okay.
That's correct.
All right, that was it.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments or questions?
I maybe have a process question.
Sure.
Because it's so new. If you go back to the picture with the blue, since this, as we just said, there's going to be like a stormwater in the bottom left, and since that goes back up, that backs up to, well, currently it's a farm, and so people are backing up to trees, and now they're going to back up to water. Do we have to do the Copper Hills people already know that that was going to be a storm location, water location? Do they ever get notified, or was that, or maybe it was on a previous map that they already know that that's going to go there?
During the preliminary plat phase, there is the public hearing,
That's
and
okay.
so that's when we do send out notifications to all adjacent properties.
Got it.
So I wasn't there for the preliminary plat, but I'm assuming Copper Hills was there before Timber
Yes,
Creek was.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Sure.
they would have been notified. They would have had the opportunity to take a look at the plat and say, "Oh, hey, there's a stormwater pond
Gonna be in
coming
your
in right
backyard.
next to my house." Yeah.
Yep.
So
Everybody comfortable with the information we received so far? Okay.
Yep.
Could I possibly get a motion to recommend approval for the lot split for development of Phase 2 for Timber Creek to City Council with conditions recommended by the city attorney?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, if you are in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We'll move to 4.2, the preserve final plat. And Harry Davis, you want to drive us through?
Take it away.
can do. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm sure you all are very aware of the preserve and where it is, but just for I guess no one's at home, but for just for consistency's sake, just showing where the preserve is next to Meridian Field, just north of Timber Creek. What we're looking at today is a final plat. So you all saw the preliminary plat that's already been approved. It's gone through both Plan Commission and City Council. At this point, there's generally little deviation from the preliminary plat. It's pretty much set in stone. The only changes that did occur, I think it was a reduction in the number of lots. I think initially when you all saw it, it was about 68 lots. Now it's about 66, so slight decrease. But at this point, we're also starting to work on the developers agreement. Just to kind of reiterate again, the developers agreement is something that City Council sees. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, but you guys do not see the developers agreement. But City Council will be reviewing that as this goes to City Council. But that developers agreement includes all the stuff that protects the city in case the developer decides to walk at like the 11th hour away from this project after it gets approved. So has everything from making sure that we have a letter of credit to do all the infrastructure improvements, all the things that allow them to build model homes or all the stormwater infrastructure, all that sort of stuff. So that's all contained within that developers agreement. And then once that developers agreement is signed, once the plats are signed off on and recorded with the county, then they can begin work. So just a few details on this particular project. So 66 lots, it does fall within R2 zoning. There's no special PRD on this particular project. It's just straight R2 zoning. So what you see in that table right there is all the requirements from the zoning side of it regarding setbacks and lot size. For pedestrian connectivity, this is a little bit unique in that there is a wetland trail that runs right next to all those wetlands right in the middle of the project. And then there's also a sidewalk system that'll connect into the adjacent Meridian fields. And then eventually, as Timber Creek starts to develop out, it will also connect down to Timber Creek. And speaking of that, the Monroe Drive extension is adjacent to this development. However, it is mostly being done by Timber Creek. And so we won't really be looking at the extension as a part of this, but it is kind of important to talk about and important to understand within the future network. There's a required berm and landscape sort of strip between them and 212. I'll get into that in a little bit. And then just to recap, they are doing fees in lieu of parkland dedication, and that's about $4,000 per lot. So you've stumped me. I don't know why I don't know that. I think it's like 12 acres. I think it's like 10 or 12 acres.
32 total, but then buildable is less.
I'm
due to
so
the
off.
lot. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. But no, it's actually a good question. I could probably bring that up in one of the.
I don't remember who's gonna have control then of the wetland.
So, yeah, that would actually be the city that would have control over that wetland. So, yeah, at the very end of it, all of the outlots will be improved to the point where the city is requiring them to be to a certain level or sort of degree in terms of construction, and then they'll be deeded over to the city. So we don't need any sort of like trail easement or anything for that wetland trail, or maybe this is the one that does. I might be confusing the two of them, but so speaking of the pedestrian connectivity, so just kind of showing you again, so the Monroe Drive extension all the way on the south side here, there will be sidewalk that will be along that. There'll be sidewalk all the way through and eventually connecting to future development, potentially to the west. Connects all the way around and then into Meridian Fields through Field Drive. And then there's also that wetland trail and that big wetland right in the middle. So it kind of goes around the perimeter of that, just not on the south and the east sides. For Monroe Drive, this just shows you a little bit of what it would look like in the future. So this is all part of Timber Creek Phase 1. If you go out there right now, this is the part that they're building for that. And then as the preserve goes in, it'll connect into Field Drive and this intersection here. And then from there, eventually with the future phases of Timber Creek, it'll wind its way through and into the west.
Is that connection a four-way stop or a two-way stop?
I believe it should be a four-way because this is kind of a major road in through here that sort of connects through all the way down through Timber Creek. If you kind of remember the other plat, it should be a four-way, but that's a good question. I'd have to get back to you on specifically for that.
While the roads are undeveloped, is construction going to be able to go straight through to get to the second row of houses, or will they have to go all the way around the loop every time to build those houses for construction trucks?
That's a good question. Again, I did tell Aaron that he didn't need to be here. I'm kind of regretting that. He's out of town though.
That's not,
But yes, I'm writing these questions down.
I would just think if it's a future road, we might as well just allow them to drive on it or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think some of that is coordination between the Timber Creek folks and the preserve folks. So
It would save them.
yeah, it'd save them a little bit of time.
And well,
Would.
it would save the city roads too from being driven on as much
Yeah,
because they'll get developed.
yeah. I will have to get back to you on that. So I'm sorry.
Yep, that's fine.
Any other questions about the Monroe Drive extension?
Is the plan for eventually that Monroe Drive will continue down to 43?
As I recall, that was the
I think in the
intention.
2040.
Yes.
That,
Yeah.
Monroe
Yes.
goes all the way.
Yeah, I believe the comprehensive plan does show it connecting all the way out. Yes.
So, based on our phase one approval of Timber Creek, they have already started constructing the first half, basically, right? They're working on it currently. Do we anticipate, do we have any idea when that's anticipated to be completed? Presumably they'd want it done as fast as possible, but.
Yeah, they do, especially because they're really hungry for permits for phase one of Timber Creek, like just finishing out all those permits. I don't recall off the top of my head.
I guess I'm just, the developers have a tacit agreement between the two different groups to make sure that that's finished in time so that the preserve people can start their construction presumably as soon as the road is finished.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coordination here. Aaron, I know, Aaron Schmidt does spend quite a bit of time sort of coordinating between all
Sure.
these at pre-construction meetings and whatnot. I can sort of send him a few messages kind of with everyone's questions combined, just to kind of ask some of those. But, you know, I would put my full trust in
Yeah.
Aaron kind of asking those questions because he's pretty good about picking up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean, I again, presumably the Timber Creek people would like to be able to sell their houses as soon as they can. So just making
Yes.
sure that, you know, there wouldn't be undue traffic going through Meridian Fields if something got delayed or what kind of schedule they're looking at for completion and how well the coordination seems to be going would be my main concern.
Yeah, I know that there was some discussion maybe about a month or so ago about just making sure that there was actual, I think it's asphalt, just, you know, an actual driving surface
Sure.
over there. I know that they were working really hard to get to that so they could get a few of these permits done. But they have a long way to go in terms of these townhouses over here, just making sure that all of the infrastructure is in before receiving permits to work on all those. So they're working pretty hard
Yeah.
on trying to get.
Well, I mean, I can see them working out there. It's relatively across the way from my home, so,
Gotcha.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just,
Yeah.
I do.
Any other questions about Monroe Drive? Okay. So with the berm and landscaping, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but as part of the preliminary plat, Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, they required for this development because of all the traffic along 212 that there be some sort of screen, berm, landscape combo between this property and 212. And so this is just kind of showing what they're proposing. It's a lot of different species of foliage, as well as you can sort of see a little bit of topography for this berm that'll go around the whole development along the north. And then each of these properties over here, because they're pretty close, they'll all have their own sort of trees to sort of help mitigate any of that sound. Any questions on the berm and the landscaping?
Is that an outlot next to Area C? To the left?
Yes. Yep. So this is, I think, one full outlot here.
Would that be like a stormwater retention pond, most likely?
Yeah, so this will be a stormwater retention pond.
Okay.
I think this is actually a little tiny bit of wetland right in the back. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I think that's why it's kind of split up by that. But that road that you see running
that's-
from,
That's extra houses, remember?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if,
Yeah.
sorry, what was the question?
The lot in the upper right corner.
Right
is-
corner,
Upper right.
Is another property owner, right?
existing.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
private
and
property, so
that property is actually ghost platted too. So at one point, when this landowner decides that they're ready to, subdivide it and build homes, they will be able to use this infrastructure that's being put in There is some, I didn't put it in the report, and I do apologize, but there is some discussion on this access point for 212 that we'll need to work through with MnDOT. Just making sure that this doesn't become a really quick cut through for people to get on 212 and all of the traffic associated with that, particularly because this is all still township road. So I'm sure that they would not like the increased maintenance costs. So there's a little bit of coordination there, but we'll be able to include that in as a part of the developers agreement. So that's sort of happening behind the scenes, just to give you a little sneak peek.
So is there, okay.
When those two houses are annexed, we're gonna have to work out a deal by closing that road.
Well, as a part of this development, I think the idea is to make sure that we can, get some sort of connection for the township into the street that's going in, and to close off this connection so that this doesn't become a little island that's only accessed off of 212.
Sure.
And is something that we'll be able to, as a part of future annexations, sort of be able to kind of envelop. So, does that make sense?
We grant access and they lose access to 212.
Yeah, yeah. And there's only, I think, 4 or 5 houses that are using this access, like this little access road along 212. So it's not a significant amount of traffic. Any other questions about the berm and landscape and the other topic I've thrown in there, the access point to 212?
Offhand, you know what the price is gonna be on these?
I do not.
I think it was around 400 from the preliminary.
That,
That was a year. That was a year ago. That was
Yeah.
almost a year ago.
yeah.
Yeah, it was almost a year ago. So, yeah. Well, yeah. They had a relatively large delay due to the wetland issues, right? Between the final and preliminary, right? Because I remember being this 9 months, almost a year ago.
Yeah, yeah. It was a while ago. We kind of got submittal. We got a submittal back in October actually for this final plat, and we'd given them comments back, and then we hadn't heard from them until maybe a month ago
Oh,
or
okay.
so. So there's probably some lag time in there, just trying to get everything
Sure.
squared away, I's dotted and T's crossed. So yeah, I'm sure that wetland posed some difficulties.
And that's permitted through the Carver water, right? Don't we have 2 different wetland or watersheds in the city? Do you recall which one? I know one of them we can do. The city is the primary, analyzer.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that was on the previous one we just did. I can't remember.
I think it's through the county.
The county. Okay, that's as I recall as well. It was the county wetland board was.
That sounds right.
Okay.
Yeah. But those are most of the details. Sorry for the questions I could not answer. I do apologize. But as staff, we are recommending approval of the final plat. There are a few small things that we're working through with the applicant, and then of course the developers agreement as we get closer to city council. But we are recommending approval of the final plat, and we do recommend that you guys recommend approval to city council. With that,
Seems like a really good time to ask for a motion to recommend approval of the final plat. We can discuss.
Okay. Yes. That's a good
What we
point.
do.
Yes.
So, would somebody like to make a motion to recommend approval of the final plat to the city council with the conditions staff work with applicants to address minor comments and developers agreement?
I move to recommend the approval of the final plat to city council with conditions that the staff work with the applicants to address minor comments and the developers agreement.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Yes.
What would you like to discuss, Reed?
Happily. So on the trail in the wetland that's going to be annexed, do you happen to know if that's planned for a gravel or would that be a paved trail for like biking or more use between the, I guess, I don't know, more improved or a more
Robust.
robust? There we go.
I do not know offhand.
Add it to the questions list.
That's
Yeah.
the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I guess, barring, I think that would be a great improve, like for biking or more, you know, than just the gravel, right? I know the one for, the one you guys approved last meeting where I missed, that was very, very challenging to go through down the hill and ravine where that would not make sense. But I think this one would be, you know, selfishly, we like to bike all around, and I think that would be a great new addition to the loop to, you know, bike around the wetland and that stuff, so,
That's gonna be a city trail.
yes,
It will be, yeah. I believe
I
it,
would guess it's gonna be paved.
okay,
yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be paved.
Okay.
But I will confirm.
thank you.
Anything else, Reed?
Um,
Any other deal breakers there?
no, I just want to be sure we got everything out of the way. We'll
Okay.
be thorough.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Can you remind me, Randall Anderson, is this their first development in Carver?
Yes. Yep.
Anybody else have something they'd like to discuss?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
if there is no further discussion, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We've approved the final plat to the city council. Let's move to item number 5. Would anybody like to provide us with updates? Reed?
Yeah.
Okay, go, man.
Yeah, why not? Just general, I know that the city of Carver did a lot of work on the sidewalks in downtown Carver recently, so we've been enjoying our walks through the area, and there's great little ice cream shop, and there's a little knick-knack shop called Funky Dove my daughter loves to stop at. And so come down and enjoy Carver, brand new sidewalks.
What a draw.
It's just,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's very nice. No, and yeah, that's it.
That's it. Anything from you, miss?
I have nothing.
Go Twins.
My shout out business would be Strive. I've been getting their shakes about once a week, and it's great. They have good stuff.
Okay. I don't have anything to add to any of this, but it all sounds good, especially the ice cream shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Really. All right, in that case, if there's nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
A second.
There's a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.